So basically the idea of the wildcard characters was the same idea that in certain card games, certain cards like the Joker can be wild, or the Ace can be wild, and a wild card can be any character, any card that you need in a card game, and any character or perhaps run of characters that you might need. So there are two wild card characters in DOS, the star and the question mark. So the star represents any 0 or more characters, and the question mark represents 0 characters. So for example, as we saw, that if I were to write something like star.doc, basically using these wildcard characters, you're going to get patterns of file names. So this is very useful if I want to find all files, for example, that have a doc extension on a particular directory. I would say the dir command. We saw this, and instead of saying a specific file, I could say, look, all files with any first name, right? The star expands to be any, and the doc extension. So this thing is fixed, so it would have to be a doc file, but any first name. If I said star.exe, it would be all files with any file first name and an exe extension. We saw the question mark means 0 or 1 characters, but since a file name has to have at least 1 character, this would be all files that have a single character name with or without an extension. Right? The star can be 0 or more, so this would be a file with one character file name and 0 more characters in the extension. This would be a 1 or 2 character file name with a 0 or 1 character extension. So for example, this would be the file a.b. It could also be, because a would be matching one of these question marks and the other one would be 0 length, and then this would not be there at all, because it could also be 0 or more characters, right? This could be 0 or 1 character. So this would match, say, aa.b, but also aa with nothing over here, and any one file character name with either 1 character here or no characters. So the idea here, though, these are very useful because they allow me to specify patterns of file names. Now, the availability of the wildcard characters greatly enhances the various commands that I want to do with files. For example, I can copy groups of files that have common characteristics in the names. For example, all doc files, or all files with a file name starting with history, so history 01, history 02, and so on. So for example, let me go to my C drive for a second. So I'm going to go C:, and I'm in this documents and settings. So if I were to do, for example, just dir, so it lists me a whole bunch of files, right, coming under documents and settings. Let's say I want to see only those files that have an extension, let's say, of INF. See, I have one with INF here, INF. I want to see all the INF files. So if I were to type dir, I don't care about the file name, so that might be star, but I do care the fact that it has an INF extension. So this says just show me all of the files in the current drive, current directory, that has an INF extension, star.inf, and it lists me all of these files, right? If I want all those files, say, with an extension of sys, so again I would type, I just did up arrow to bring this thing back, and to modify it I would say dir star dot, and let's say sys. And it says, well, I got a bunch of these here. Now how would I look at all files that the file name starts with an M, and I don't care about the rest of it? So I'd say dir, the file name starts with an M, the rest of the file name can have anything in there, so I put the star, and then I don't care whether it has an extension or what the extension is, so it finds all of those things. Notice it found Motorola driver log.txt and sys, and it found the directory my documents because that starts with an M, and so on. Now, so you see how powerful this thing is, and later on we're going to use it to actually copy groups of files. Finally, there's one other, let me just type that again, so this will again give me all of those files that starts with an M. If I want to find it on the whole disk, let's say starting in this directory, all files whose file name starts with M, let's say, and it's a doc file. So I would simply say, starts with an M, has anything else in the file name, doc. Now if I just look in this directory, it says it doesn't find anything. But what about if I look, if I want from here down the rest of the disk, if I say /s, it's going to look not only here, but in all the subdirectories, all the folders coming out of the current directory, it's going to look for all files. And I don't know if there are any over here, but starting with an M, any file name with a doc extension, and it's going to go look for it. Oh, there are actually. So that's matrix class slides and so on and so forth. And so that's the way this thing works. Now, if at this point we go back to the directory command for a moment, so we see the directory command has the following syntax. The minimum directory command is just dir itself, but I can specify the drive I want the directory of. I can specify the file names that I'm looking for, and I can specify if I want to pause after a screen full, or if I want to have a wide listing. We saw all this in class. This is pretty straightforward. The interesting thing here is that I can look for a specific file or a specific set of files with a common file name using wildcards, as we just saw before.